And here we are live. Hi, kids. This is this live radio. Ain't nothing like it. So let's do it the traditional way. There we go. Good morning, everybody. There's Lake Wissota. This is not Lake Wissota. This is, in fact, if I turned off the virtual background, you'd see nothing but a white wall. That is my friend's guest bedroom in Regina, Saskatchewan. Nice to know the Canadian airlines aren't that much different than the ones in the States here. So our flight was canceled yesterday. We're heading to the airport sometime before this show is over. But Parker's here. Parker's got this, man. Right?
I hope.
I hope. Welp. Uh, Yeah, so we will cover a lot of ground today. Obviously, the serious news from over the weekend, the tragic news. If you didn't hear late last night, a suspect is in custody now in that shooting of shooting death of a lawmaker, the wounding of another lawmaker in Minnesota, another murder, another wounding involving their spouses. But a suspect's been arrested, so we have that to report on. We will also talk about the demonstrations that went on, of course, over the weekend, all over the country, millions and millions of Americans. We'll talk about the rather pathetic little event organized for Donald Trump, which is not a knock on any of the participants in our military at all, but it was all woefully unnecessary and a waste of our money. We know how wonderful it is that we have so many wonderful men and women who serve in the armed forces. They didn't have to do something like this as part of a vanity project. Well, they had to, but as a country, we didn't have to. So we'll talk a bit about that as well. Dr. Kristin Lyerly will be here, of course, it being a Monday. Salina Heller, the same. We will talk to Jeff Mandell from Law Forward about the suit that his group has filed against Elon Musk, trying to stop the era of billionaire bribery in Wisconsin elections. We'll talk to author Laura Bird at 8:30 about memoirs, the difference between memoirs and autobiographies, and some favorites that she is recommending for us. And let's see. Oh, John and Gordy will be here from our Madison Civic Media Station as well. So, Lord willing and a fair wind blowing, this will all get started in less than 3 minutes across the Civic Media Radio Network and right here. We'll see you soon. And Mr. Olson, do you have everything you think you need?
Think I do? I
I,
sure hope.
I hope we do too. All right, sounds good. I will be right back.
Happy Monday. From the Civic Media Radio Network, this is a special live edition of Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News. Pat's not live from Lake Wissota like he normally is. Instead, he's live somewhere stranded in Canada. Joining us now is the founding editor of Up North News, it's Pat Kreitlow.
Hey, that was pretty good.
Thank you.
Have you ever thought of going into radio?
I've considered it once or twice.
You have? Okay. Well, I think this could work out for you. I think it's something you ought to consider.
All right, that's good to know. That's very promising for what I've got coming up here.
See, you're not just here to push buttons. You are a true partner and broadcaster. Remember that when this signal gives out from Canada, okay?
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Okay. Let me give the somewhat formal welcome, shall I? Something that goes like this. Oh, Canada. Your airlines are not much better than ours when it comes to stranding passengers trying to get home. So, hey there, Wisconsin, good morning. It is 6:06 on this Monday morning, 6:07 now, June 16th, 2025. And when I say it's another beautiful morning to have you here up north, I'm not talking Lake Wissota. I'm talking much farther up north, up on the prairies of Saskatchewan. We are 100 miles north of the Canadian border with North Dakota and Montana, not too far from Regina, and we welcome you to another Monday from wherever you're spending your mornings listening across the Civic Media Radio Network or on the Civic Media or Up North News Facebook or YouTube pages, the Civic Media app, or by podcast. We appreciate you starting your week right here. Now, sadly, there is serious news from the weekend to cover, so we won't have much more to say about why I'm stuck in Canada. It's not about troubles at the border, which we've joked about for several days here. I haven't tried to cross the border yet, so that trouble might still be coming up. Rather, our flight home yesterday was canceled at the last minute due to mechanical trouble. Now, I'd rather be stuck on the ground than up in the air with a broken airplane, but we've also learned the hard way that being in a small market, this particular Canadian airline doesn't have a bunch of spare planes lying around. So, lacking any other combination of flights that would have gotten us home yesterday, and believe me, I tried, we had to sheepishly call the friends we were visiting for just a quick weekend visit and ask them to come back and get us and take us in for one more day and basically take over their Father's Day. And so, again, a belated happy Father's Day to everybody else out there. So I'm reporting from their guest room here in the basement. The scene that you see behind me, if you're watching on social media, is their backyard of the prairies of Saskatchewan. I'd actually hoped to cover things from there. They have a lovely 3-season porch, and it would have been great to show you that scene right there live, but it was just far enough away from their router that we may not have necessarily had a reliable signal. And then poor Parker here would have been carrying 3 hours on his back, and while it's a strong, youthful back, it's not one where he was not seeking out a 3-hour show today.
It's not that strong of a back, Pat.
Well, it gets the job done for our purposes here, and how was your weekend?
It was pretty good. Managed to avoid the rain, so it was a very dry weekend of Mallards games. Was very happy with that.
Oh, good. Okay, yeah. Tony on YouTube, really testing that up north thing, huh? Yep, we sure are. Aren't you Todd Alba? Why aren't you in your office? And also, is this the first international show on Civic Media? I never thought of us making history here. Maybe we've done something.
International man, Pat Kreitlow?
Yes, there you go. I am. Doesn't Jane and Greg have a guest called Mr. Global?
They do.
Let's see. And then they've got what's his name? Pitbull loves to call himself Mr. Worldwide.
Yep.
So I don't know. We'll come up with something else.
Is Austin Powers the international?
He's an international man of mystery. So we'll need another way to describe the global reach that is Mornings with Pat Kreitlow on the Civic Media Radio Network. Alicia saying, I'm glad you're safe on the ground as well. Thank you, Alicia, very much. Tony says, Mr. Global is just in Oklahoma, though. Okay. We could just steal that title. I mean, what's he going to do? Cross the border to come get me? So...
It's a risky business crossing the border.
I know. Well, I've certainly done the show from out west before, visiting a daughter in Idaho, so I'm familiar with doing the show on the road. I've done it from Kalamazoo, Michigan, where another daughter resides. I've done the show from other cities, but yeah, never another country. And I did worry that it wouldn't work for this reason. Uh, in Canada, you can't get news sites on Facebook and you can't share news articles. And I learned that the hard way, but that's one way that they combat the spread of misinformation is,
Huh.
there are so many sites out there that, uh, claim to be one thing, but then they turn out to be something else. We certainly saw that with all the misinformation running around this weekend after events in Minnesota. But it was very odd. I was going to share an article, and then up comes this little window saying, Canada does not allow you to share news content on Facebook. And I wasn't sure how I felt about that. I'm like, well, wait, I trust myself to share something, but having seen all the other garbage that gets shared out there in Facebook world, maybe this isn't the worst thing in the world. So you couldn't share the news stories. I thought, boy, are we going to be able to get a live stream across the border? But we can because, again, this isn't posting something on Facebook. This is just like a phone call between me and Parker.
They don't know that you're doing news.
Yeah.
I think we're just
There,
talking.
there's times I don't know if I'm doing news. Alicia says mornings with Pat Kreitlow throughout North America.
Yeah,
Yeah, that,
that works.
I'm saying we could have some real reach here. So that's the reason we are where we are here. And in fact, because the flight that I'm taking is exactly 24 hours after the last one, unlike where a Sunday morning I left for the airport at 8:30. I got to leave for the airport at 8:30 here as well. So, fortunately, young Mr. Olson is there in studio. You might even be joined by others, like maybe Luke Mathers or somebody. But regardless, you're going to have author Laura Bird right there in studio with you at
That
8:30 today.
is true. I'm very excited about that. I was also found out. I don't remember who it is. Is it Jeff is coming in? I believe to the studio.
Oh, Jeff Mandell from Law
Yeah,
Forward.
I believe
Oh,
so.
look at this. I mean, we got more guests in studio than ever before, even as the host gets farther away from the studio than ever before. I feel like I'm in one of those photos, where they're like, Pat, stand back a little more, stand back, cross the border.
Keep
Okay, you're
going.
good.
Keep
You're
going.
good. All
All right,
right.
everything else come in the room. All right, we're
Yep.
good.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, let's talk a bit about what else is coming up on the show. So we've mentioned Jeff Mandell from Law Forward, and author Laura Bird is going to be here as well. Of course, it's Monday, so we hope to have Dr. Kristin Lyerly in coming up at 6:30. However, she is working this weekend. She is on call, and at least once or twice we haven't been able to see her because those babies are naughty and they just show up when they want to show up. So hopefully we'll get to talk to Kristin at 6:30. Salina Heller will be along in time for today's history lesson. And then sometime after 7 o'clock, she'll share some of the clips that she took of a woman who helped organize the No Kings protests that were held all over the country, including in the Chippewa Valley. That's a little after 7. And of course, at 7:30, Jeff Mandell from Law Forward talking about the lawsuit they filed against Elon Musk. What they want is for a court to look at his attempts at what I refer to as billionaire bribery and say that there have to be better standards. Now there was a court attempt at the time to say that Elon Musk can't be paying voters $1 million here, $1 million there, offering an endless series of $100 payments to sign a petition, which is totally unrelated to the state Supreme Court race that was going on at the time. Anyway, in the rush of things at the time, a court declined to stop Elon Musk from doing that. Now that things have passed, more evidence has been collected. Law Forward is going to be making the case that what Elon Musk did and what other billionaires might want to do is tantamount to voter bribery and needs to be struck down. So Jeff Mandel will be our guest about that. Coming up after 8 o'clock, we'll talk to our friends John Peterson and Gordy Young, John and Gordy from our civic media station in Madison. Then at 8:30, author Laura Bird will be here, and we'll wrap things up with Jane Matnair telling us what's on her program. Coming up, Matnair on Air along with Greg Bach. Right at 9 o'clock after we are all done and wrapping up here. And of course, as we talk about the terrible events in Minnesota that happened over the weekend, I feel duty bound to note that today is the 10th anniversary since Donald Trump rode down that escalator in his personal temple to himself. And declared that he was going to be a candidate for president and convinced many of our neighbors basically to normalize everything that's wrong with allowing the incompetent and the insensitive to run our government and control our media. And the violence that he has espoused and the violent rhetoric that he has spread has claimed lives this weekend. And I'm listening to everybody who might be screaming both sides, both sides. Obviously, nobody has a 100% corner on the market, but we know what's happening right now in the here and now. We know enough about the suspect and his ties, his religious and political extremism, and so it is sadly not a surprise that somebody in his position essentially snapped and decided to go on a murderous spree. And I mean, if I had a question of the day, it would be along those lines because we've been so busy vilifying immigrants and vilifying other minorities. And my question for you today is when are we finally going to do something about the real domestic terrorism out there that is, by and large, white guys shooting up places? When you look at the mass shootings that we've had, when you look at what get described as what's the acronym? It's for right-wing nut jobs. The term is out there, and it continues to happen. And we continue to have politicians who turn a blind eye and say, well, this is all about freedom. Well, this puts the dumb in freedom. If their definition of freedom is that our gun laws are so loose that we can just now have political murders to go along with our mass shootings in this country. And why are we accepting that? Because we really shouldn't. We'll talk a bit more about this as the day goes on as well. And of course, we mentioned the No Kings protest. We didn't mention Donald Trump's little military parade. And let's be clear, this is nothing anti-military. The Army is 250 years old. Deserved a good birthday party. Did not deserve to be essentially hijacked for a vanity project by a president with a little Napoleon complex. And frankly, that was reflected in the events. I thought maybe a whole lot of people would go to Washington, D.C. to protest the military parade and that things might get troublesome. But I think enough people realize that's exactly what Donald Trump would have wanted. He wants confrontation. Look at what he's doing in Los Angeles. And instead, people stayed away. I mean, lots of people stayed away. The crowd was embarrassingly small. And the parade itself was not exactly on line with what you would see in North Korea or the old Soviet Union. And that's fine by me. I don't know how the military planned the parades, how the units would look and everything. That again was not important to me. The important part was to honor the service of the Army and of all the armed forces and those who have served our country that way, rather than through something to try to appease one man. And the folks that stayed away and instead took part in No Kings protests around the country, you did my heart a lot of good. So again, coming up, Kristin Lyerly, Salina Heller, Jeff Mandell, Jimmy Costco with sports, John and Gordy, Laura Bird, Jane Matner, all from the heart of America's up north, really way up north, live from the Saskatchewan prairies. Thanks for making this the place to spend a part of your Monday mornings. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. Well, we got that one.
Yeah. I realized about a minute ago you probably don't have a clock, so I'm glad that it seems like
no,
you
I do. Oh no,
yeah.
I do. In fact, I will. I've always got that handy here on my phone. So nope, there.
Oh yeah.
You see
Oh,
that?
you're gone.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway.
I'll believe you. All right.
Yeah, believe me. You know what? Actually, let me take out the virtual background for a bit here and just go with this. See what a stark room this is?
I was expecting like
yeah. So anyway. Yeah, no, there's literally nothing here. So here we are. So I think I'm going to put their backyard back in here. I thought about going with the show background, but that looks almost heavenly. So
it's not that nice to be out of America.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, let's see. Yeah, Tony. Near where Santa vacations. Yes, it wouldn't surprise me a bit.
It's down south for Santa.
It really is. It's like, oh, let's go down to the tropics of Saskatchewan.
It's so lovely down there this time of year.
All right. All right. So, let's see. We've got a little sports going here. Okay. Let's bring this back up here. And of course, doing this on one little laptop screen as opposed to a great big iMac monitor is troublesome.
I wondered about that.
Yeah, I'm moving a lot of windows around. I'm sure people looked at my eyes during this show.
Good thing you don't have glasses reflecting it all back.
Well, that's why I quickly threw in my contacts because it was reflecting. All right, about 10 seconds. Spending our Monday mornings here on the prairies of Saskatchewan, part of the prairie provinces of Alberta and Saskatchewan and Manitoba. I'm Pat Kreitlow, way up north on this Monday morning, thanks to airline troubles, and hopefully can get back home a little bit later today. But here's the thing that they do have in Regina. They have a Best Buy. So when I needed to get a microphone real quick, they were able to provide this headset one here, which apparently is all for video gaming. I've never done this, Parker. I don't, video gaming for me was Pong. Okay,
Oh,
and now you've got these very sophisticated things with the headsets and the microphones
yeah.
and everything like that. So I guess I'm good to go if I want to become a gamer now. I'm now properly equipped.
What kind of games are you going to be playing, Pat?
Does Pong come in in a newer Probably not. And if it does, it's probably got 28 levels and violence and everything else.
Yeah,
So,
there could
So,
be. Maybe there'll be color.
well, that would be a change. Yes, absolutely. So, well, I don't know. So I've got the gear. So we'll just carry on talking about the news and the sports of the day, which includes, of course, telling you that Up North News has a daily newsletter. Now has one 7 days a week, including a politics one that comes out on Sundays, a sports one on Saturdays, and you can head over to upnorthnewswi.com, click subscribe, and get a hold of these newsletters. And in each one, we ask a question of the week. This week, it was, should Governor Evers run for a third term? Now, there are a couple of different answers to that. There's certainly those who say yes, by all means. He's the one who can win. He's got a good record to run on. Whatever the Republicans run against him, he's going to look much more moderate and, shall I say, normal. Others will say he should retire because he maybe can't win, that he's earned a retirement. They're fans of Governor Evers, much like Dan Schaefer's column last week, and saying, but it's time to pass the torch. And then, of course, there are those who are not fans of Governor Evers who would also like him to step aside. So we've already received a big bunch of answers on that. And I will look forward to sharing those with you, throughout the course of the coming days here. And let's see, I actually have a few of them here in front of me. Here's one from Justin who says, Evers should retire and not endorse a successor. Let's have a robust primary. Kind of shades of the presidential election last year. Carolyn with a K just gives 4 thumbs up as an endorsement of Tony running for a third term. Martha writes, until there is a more balanced state legislative body, we should keep Governor Evers and his creative workarounds around. Now is not the time for inexperience, she writes. Chuck writes, Tony has done a great job as Wisconsin's governor, but I'm not pushing him to run again. He's 73 years old. It might be time to retire. He deserves a relaxing retirement on a Wisconsin lake enjoying his grandchildren. And if Tony runs out of money, he can do quick trip commercials. Well, there you go. Somebody is as uniquely Wisconsin as Tony Evers. If you want to retire and do commercials for Quick Trip or Culver's or for whatever, yes. And Alicia's right, putting up on YouTube here just now, I can see the pros and cons of both scenarios, which is what I said last week in putting up Dan Schaefer's column and starting the discussion. Now, there are some who say that even starting the discussion is giving a gift to Republicans and allowing them to beat the drum that Governor Evers should retire. I would contend that was going to happen anyway. Governor Evers is going to announce in the coming weeks what he's going to do. And if he decides to run for a third term, that will be a topic no matter what, just as it would have been it was for President Biden before that debate performance back in June. So we'll just have to see how the governor decides this. Tony writes 33 votes on an Instagram post about it on civic media. Basically, 3 out of 4 say run, Tony, run, and 1/4 of them say not to run. So again, we don't have the scientific polling. We have the soapbox. So tell us what you think of that and so many other issues by heading over to any of the places, including Up North News, where you can sign up for our Sunday newsletter and weigh in that way, or here on the comment section of this show and tell us what you're thinking. The governor did speak at the Democratic State Convention in Wisconsin Dells over the weekend, did not tip his hand one way or the other on whether he would run for a third term. The business of the day for Democrats was picking a new state party chair. And if you haven't heard, Devin Remiker is the new state Democratic Party chair. The former executive director of the state party had been endorsed by Ben Wickler and received a near majority of the votes on the first ballot. And this was the first time that they used ranked choice voting. And in ranked choice voting, Joe Zepecki came in second, William Garcia third. And so William Garcia's votes were reallocated based on the second choice of Garcia voters. I don't know. I'm going to assume most, if not all, of Garcia's voters did have a second choice that they listed. And enough of them were Devin Remiker to put him over the top and give him a majority of the votes. And so he will be the new state chair. But again, William Garcia and Joe Zepecki were right there on stage, providing a united front for the party. And again, both of those gentlemen are just world-class professionals and will continue to keep the party unified. They put up good reasons why any of them would have been a good party chair heading into a year where Democrats hope to take control of the legislature, at least one, if not both bodies, and hold on to the governor's office and maybe even pick off a congressional seat or two. So I appreciated that united front from all of the gentlemen who decided to run, because there's work to be done against people like Congressman Derek Van Orden, who again was spreading rampant disinformation and misinterpreting people's comments and basically just acting like, an entitled dork, to put it mildly, because stronger words will better describe what Derek Van Orden does with incidents like what happened over the weekend in Minnesota, but let's not give him any more attention than he deserves, except to say that we deserve better. Hope to talk back to Kristin Lyerly. We'll see how things are going for her over the weekend and check in next. I'm Pat Kreitlow from somewhere up on the Canadian prairies and really up north. All right. How are we looking over there? Well,
Looking fine.
with the water, didn't mean to make you choke on it over there. So,
Oh, we're good.
see, all our hosts got were these little tiny bottles of Coke. So, this little tiny bottle of Diet Coke's got to get me through.
I was going to ask, how's the no coffee going for you here?
It'll be fine. Look, I was at the airport yesterday And of course, it being Canada, there's a Tim Hortons everywhere, including
Yeah.
at the airport. And so I got a Tim Hortons double shot, and that did all right. So um, to, Tony asks, isn't criticizing elected officials on foreign soil like against the law or something? It used to be. Then some guy named Trump came along, so I'm not going to worry about that too much, you know? So, anywho, boy, do I realize I just made a mistake. So,
Hmm.
well, our normally again here we're in the mountain time zone, and so
Oh, right. What time is it for you?
it's 5:30 here now, and
Okay.
yeah, so I went to go, just give Sherry a kiss and say, okay, show's about to start. Figuring it was about 6 o'clock, she's about to get up. It just occurred to me she had another hour to sleep.
Eh,
Worst husband ever. But
works.
Kristin made these headset microphones look good, so here I am.
Yeah.
Mine is also a gaming microphone.
Yeah, see?
hmm
How are ya?
I'm good. I did have like resources that I could plug into though. It wasn't a desperation purchase, and I surveyed all of my children, and this was the winner.
And what do you know what it was?
No.
Okay, me neither. This is called this
Wow.
this is called no, I've got the box here somewhere. It's called the Kraken by Razer with a Razer
Oh,
or
okay.
something like that.
Razer is a good brand.
Okay, if you know that,
Okay,
being a youth as you are.
Yeah.
So the
Oh,
thing
boy.
is, it also, I think is that not the same one?
I don't
No, mine's got some kind of weird symbol on it there.
No, they all have symbols.
Yes, and they light up. Currently, the lights are purple on the side here. They were green before. I feel like I'm at a rave.
Me too. Monday
Yeah.
morning rave. Woo!
Tony says Kraken, that's the best. Alicia's a gamer. She says the Kraken is a pretty decent headset. Well, there you go. Okay.
Great.
I
Sounds good to me.
just ran into Best Buy and grabbed something. So I was really hoping to do this out on our friend's 3-season deck, but it was a little too far from the router. But so I did snap a picture quick of the backyard. So
Oh, that's lovely.
yeah, that basically you just take that for 3,000 miles and you run into Newfoundland or Greenland or something.
Nope.
So
How's your Regina?
I beg your pardon?
How's your Regina?
my Regina is fine, thank you very much.
Nothing could be finer than to be in Regina in the morning.
Oh, very nice. Oh boy.
Can you cue that one up, Parker?
He has no idea what we're talking about.
That's a real song. It's a show tune.
No,
Yeah,
that does sound very familiar.
It's yeah.
It's not Regina though.
We're not expecting your 1940s musical trivia to be at expert level here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh God. Did you have much for work this weekend?
I've delivered a whole bunch of babies.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, good thing we still have a hospital here. I mean, for the time being, but it's on the shutdown list, so.
Ugh, of course.
Yeah.
All right. 20 seconds. What's that song that Kristin Lyerly taught me? Nothing could be finer than be stranded in Regina in the morning. Yeah, that works.
That's not exactly how I said it, but
I know. I had to clean it up a bit for you. Dr. Kristin Lyerly joins us now. She is normally on Monday mornings when she's working. She is our true up north correspondent up in northern Minnesota. I got you beat this time by a couple of hundred miles.
You special take off, eh?
Yeah, take off, hoser. No Bob and Doug McKenzie sightings here. Although I do want to tell you about one of the natural features of Saskatchewan. As we were driving around town to do a couple of things with our friends over the weekend, they pointed out this area about the size of a baseball field or a large, parking lot with a lot of, big brown mounds on there. And our friend James said, "Guess what those are?" And we're like, wood chips? Is it compost? Is it whatever? He's like, no, those are still all the snow piles from plowing the
Mm,
streets of Regina. There's still all these piles about 8 to 10 feet high, and of course, it's all dirty snow, but still out there on this June 16th,
mm-hmm.
melting away up here on the prairie.
It's
So,
all different. There's so much snow. What I've noticed up here in Hibbing, Minnesota, is that they plow the snow into the middle of the street, and
mhm,
then they come back with a dump truck and a front
yes.
loader, and they take it away that way because there's just so much snow that you can't just push it off to the side. So if we think we're way up north in Wisconsin, yeah, there's a whole different level.
Oh yeah, yeah, without a doubt. Were you busy this weekend, birthing babies?
Yeah. Can I
Okay.
tell you just one of the coolest stories?
Well,
So
of course.
we had this delightful birth yesterday, and the dad had the most wonderful playlist. People will often bring, like, they'll queue up playlists for their birth experience. And he had all the classics, like, Push It by Salt and Peppa, and like Be My Baby by the Ronettes. Every song had something to do with babies. But when she was like just ready to deliver, he said, "Hand me my phone." And all of a sudden we heard, "Ah, Savannah, la, 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 na,
No,
na." No kidding.
no,
Like the baby
no.
was born as the Circle of Life was playing. We were all like crying. It was great.
That's that's something. It's like your first dad joke as you become a dad, is to pull that one.
He was so proud of himself. He'd been planning it for months.
Well, I'm glad it worked. Jeez. So Kristin Lyerly joins us from way down south, as far as I see it, from up here in Saskatchewan, where again we're making light of today's situation, and there is no good way to transition into what happened over the weekend, especially since I mean you were one of the first people I thought of after the killings of the lawmaker and her husband, and the shootings of another lawmaker and his wife. And I had a sense that you might, know them or had met them, and so I reached out to you right away, and wanted to know your thoughts on Representative Hortman there, and I mean just the. I guess I just want to give you free reign to talk a bit about what happened to Melissa Hortman and to State Senator John Hoffman. Melissa Hortman was for 6 years, was Speaker of the Minnesota House of Representatives, was still the Democratic leader, and was doing a stellar job putting Minnesota on a good political track before all of this happened.
Melissa Hartman was a brilliant leader. So many of the gains that we've seen in Minnesota, the progressive gains, were the brainchild of Melissa Hartman and the work of Melissa Hartman. And it was hard work. And one of the themes that we kept seeing over and over this weekend was that she voted, it was a controversial vote. She and her colleague voted against immigrants, Minnesota giving immigrants health care. And that was a hard vote for her to take, but it was what she needed to do in order to get this giant omnibus budget bill across the line.
Let me make that point for folks, because we've said here in Wisconsin that if a state budget bill doesn't pass, government doesn't shut down. You just continue things at the old budget spending level. Minnesota's different. They will shut down state government if they don't pass a budget bill. And the House of Representatives there is tied 67-67. So in a power sharing agreement, Melissa Hortman stepped down. A Republican is currently serving as Speaker. And again, there was a need to pass this budget, and Republicans would not pass. They were prepared to shut down government services for all unless the provision included denying Medicaid to undocumented immigrants. And that was a vote that Melissa had to take. And so you can pick up the story from there.
Yeah, it was a grueling vote. I mean, you could see there's video all over the internet about it. She's tearful talking about it. And it was it was so disgusting. Pat, I'm sure you saw some of the misinformation that was out there that this was the motive for someone from the far left
Yeah.
to assassinate these leaders.
It would be one thing if it was just your common internet troll. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, the common internet trolls today include former Governor Scott Walker and current Congressman Derek Van Orden, who passed these things along and then had all kinds of unhinged things to say about, the far left. And Scott Walker at least had the decency, if that's the right word, to delete his post when it turned out not to be the case. Last I checked, Derek Van Orden's still up there, along with a whole assortment of other folks who want you to see anything other than what this gunman really was about, what his past was, his speaking, the comments that he made to, or the text that he sent to friends before doing this heinous thing, and it's just infuriating, the stuff that like a Republican U.S. senator from Utah was posting about this. We want to say be better, but we can't even find that in some of our leaders these days.
Oh, not even close, and not for a long time. I mean, I guess it's not that surprising to see this. It's just really disgusting. And another piece of information that was twisted was that the assailant was appointed to a governor's task force in Minnesota by Governor Walz back in 2019. It was actually a second appointment to a non-political body in the state, but that too was used as evidence that this was an inside job from the far left. Really disappointing stuff. Of course, that was again a non-political body. This was not a political appointment. Governor Walz did not know this man. This evidence is coming out now that is substantiated that this man was a Donald Trump voter. He is an evangelical Christian who appears to be in financial trouble, and there are numerous other pieces of information that we're starting to figure out as they're unpacking this case, and having captured the assailant yesterday in rural southwestern Minnesota.
Yes, near an area where he has another residence. So folks were looking there in one of the, if not the largest manhunt in Minnesota history.
By far.
And obviously people were thinking of you because this guy had notebooks. They're now backing off saying a manifesto, but certainly a lot of notes and lists of names that included all kinds of folks, including doctors, including legislators, including people from Wisconsin. And until this guy was caught, there was a lot of angst out there about what else this guy might be able to do.
Oh, I'm sure there still is. I mean, there's concern about copycat crimes. We know that there were 11 Wisconsin elected leaders on the list, so the legislature was informed. There was extra security at the convention over the weekend. And a number of abortion providers and clinics were also on this list. And it wasn't like a concise list, it was kind of a scattershot of thoughts and not an organized manifesto. So it's been a little confusing to interpret. But I can tell you that my colleagues in Minnesota who are OBGYN doctors, they are outspoken leaders. Many of them are abortion providers, leaders at Planned Parenthood. It's been a very tense weekend for my colleagues and myself.
And then there was, of course, this call by public safety officials to maybe not go to the protests on Saturday because of concerns for their safety. And in Minnesota, what that meant was on the Capitol grounds, on the state Capitol grounds, more than 80,000 people said no. We are not letting this one nut get in the way of us making a statement about what kind of government we want and how we should all be able to come together peacefully. And that's what tens of thousands of people did there, and people all across Wisconsin and all over the country.
Yeah, up in Chisholm, Minnesota, we had 500 people, and the town only has 3,000, so that was pretty great. Yeah, I was surprised, though. I was in Minneapolis when the Twins won the World Series in '87, and I remember people, as we were flooding toward the Metrodome, stopping and obeying walk signals. So I really thought that the numbers would be low. But no, it was an incredible turnout. There were beautiful things happening. There were food drives and communities coming together, volunteer booths. It was about bringing people together and uplifting each other. It was not about anger and violence. And that, getting that many people together and having it be as positive and hopeful as it was a truly beautiful thing.
It really was. And for those folks who wanted to make it seem like it was some kind of budding insurrection or something. I would again first January 6th that was an insurrection.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that kind of a demonstration looks like. But that no, it was the more the point was we're not looking to overthrow the government today or ever. We have elections for that. We're looking to make the point that here in this country we have the right to protest, and so many people feel alone. So many people feel like, well, too much of the country has accepted this normalization of violence and rhetoric and division. And it was great that people came together and said, no, not this. We're better than this, and we will act at the right point to get a better day and the kind of leaders that espouse American values and not whatever this is that we have to deal with right now.
Hey, and the conversations, bringing people together. I mean, Kristin in Milwaukee had a great video of taking her mom to her first
Yes.
protest, and her mom is singing songs from Les Mis in the car, and she's so excited and fired up. This is what we need, is to bring people together and have these conversations. I was in a meeting, just to pivot a little bit, with Senator Elizabeth Warren last week about the big beautiful bill and how many people know about the big beautiful bill. We talk about it all the time, but in fact, 1 in 4 people know. 3 in 4 people have no idea what this means. All they're hearing is that top line messaging. If anything, they have no idea what the implications are. They have no idea that the hospital I work at in northern Minnesota will likely close if this big beautiful bill passes, as will the hospital in Manitowoc, Wisconsin, and 38 hospitals in Louisiana. And that's one little piece of it. So it is incumbent upon us to have these conversations with each other, not in a hostile way, not with all of these ugly misinformation talking points, but in a genuine way about our values and the things that we deeply care about.
And we've certainly seen that as the big bloated boondoggle continues to work its way through the U.S. Senate, is more and more people becoming aware, saying, this is not what I voted for. This is not what I expected as a Trump voter. They expected a more, shall we say, business-like approach toward identifying, waste and fraud and things like that, and instead are getting something that they understand is going to hurt them, going to hurt their family, going to hurt their economy, going to hurt people. And as we'll hear from Salina Heller, in the story about the Chippewa Valley rally, there were plenty of people that were happy to see that there are Republicans in there. In that crowd who said, we can do better than this. And
Yes.
so Salina Heller will tell us much more about that. Coming up, she's going to join us for today's history lesson. Then after the 7 o'clock news, we'll get into that a bit more. We'll then talk to Jeff Mandell from Law Forward about the suit that he and others are bringing to end billionaire bribery in our Supreme Court elections. Author Laura Bird still ahead as well on this Monday morning from northern Minnesota, from the prairies of Saskatchewan, and from Wisconsin, of course, here across the Civic Media Radio Network. Back in a bit.
Can we get a little Bob and Doug McKenzie? Take off, little Geddy Lee, to the great white north. Take off. It's a beauty way to go. It's a beauty. Oh,
It's a beauty.
This show's a beauty. That should be the name. Call it that. It's a beauty of a show.
It's a
Take
beauty,
off,
eh?
Change the name of the podcast episode, Pat.
I take off.
And that Kraken headset looks a little bit like a toque.
You have been too close to the border for far too long. Oh my goodness.
Oh, that was one of my favorite things to listen to as a kid. That was how I learned about Rush.
Yes. Yeah.
Mhm.
Do you have anything after 7, or are you okay to stay till 7:30?
I can stay as long as the hospital doesn't need me.
Okay. All right. Let's get to the important part because of what's on the calendar today. Where's Whiskers?
Oh, all right. What's on the calendar? Oh my gosh, Whiskers!
Whiskers! Will you get out of here?
Oh yeah, we need that. I don't know. He's usually right by my side.
So of course, the
Here.
one time he's welcome. The one time he's welcome.
Oh my gosh, Whiskers! Whisk!
It's okay. There's no doubt that as soon as you start talking on air,
Oh, he's right.
you'll be like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, I got it.
He's coming.
All right. So we do have both of your clips,
Yeah.
and so you're just going to need to tell us which one to go into first.
Okay.
And so we'll do that after weather. Um, and were you at any of the events this weekend? Okay.
No, I was driving.
What's her name? Cindy Greening?
Greening. I talked to her last night. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Sounds good.
Oh, here's the fuzz.
Oh, hello, Fuzz. Hello, Lintrap. All right. I should go find some history notes here. There we go. We're going to start with some OJs. Get that up there. We got 45 seconds.
OJ's. The first thing that came to my mind was jumping over Samsonite suitcases in the airport.
I keep forgetting you're almost as old as me. And
I
we're the
know.
only two people left who remember that commercial.
I know. Somebody this weekend was talking about the Princess Bride, and all the nurses were like, "What?" And we were like, "No, not the Princess Bride."
God. See? All right, 15 seconds. We're going to start today's history lesson with the OJs and Edward Levert, who is 83 years old today, kicking off today's history lesson. The OJs with Used to Be My Girl. Of course, they gave us Love Train and Backstabbers and For the Love of Money. You know that one. Money, money, money. Money. Anyway, and I Love
Wow.
Music and some others. Yeah, exactly.
You hit that note.
I
6:53.
did not expect that out of you, Pat.
So, anyway, and Salina Heller joins us as well, Up North News reporter, and has a prop with her, a fur ball that is finally welcome because let me jump ahead to the National Day calendar. Today
What is it?
is National Take Your Cat to Work Day.
Hey!
Congratulations, Whiskers!
Whiskers!
You're finally welcomed here. It's so great to see you for a day. Look at that look of his like, yep, I'm the king. It's good to be the king. You know?
I'm here. I'm here today and every day.
Yep, exactly. Tupac Shakur was born this day in 1971, born Lasagne Parish, Crooks, before passing away in 1996. Also on the birthday list today, professional golfer Phil Mickelson is 55 years old today. Let's hear a little bit from David Bowie, who released his fifth studio album this day in 1972. This, of course, would be Suffragette City, from the rise and fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars, on many people's lists as among the best albums of all time. It was on this day in 1978 that Grease, starring John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John, opened up in theaters. I didn't queue up a song for this one because I knew Kristin Lyerly would give us something without even prompting.
We go together like rumble, but everybody remember forever that shoo-wop, shoo-wada-wada, zippity-boom-de-boom.
See, we still have to pay license fees for this. Also, the number one album this day in 1979 was Donna Summer's seventh studio album, Bad Girls. You want to take some of the licensing rights for that one too, Kristin?
Sure. Salina, you with me?
You start. I don't know.
Bad girls, right? Talking about the bad girls.
And
Beep, beep. Am I right?
toot toot, beep beep. Yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
On this day in 1980, the Blues Brothers movie premiered in Chicago and gave a nice boost to Aretha Franklin, James Brown, and Ray Charles, folks like that. And then in 1990, the number one hit was by Roxette. And I know you're like, wait, you could have played something from Grease or the Blues Brothers or Donna Summer, and you went with Roxette. Again, I knew Kristin would fill the void perfectly for us. So
that's a little high. Then it's a little high for me this morning.
Yeah. As noted at the top of the show, it's an unfortunate anniversary that it was 10 years ago today, 2015, that Donald Trump rode down an escalator and announced his campaign to run for president. Forgive us, Lord, for whatever we did to deserve that, because it was ridiculed at the time. And rightly so, by a whole lot of Republicans who said, we're never voting for that guy.
Well, and was it real? I mean, would he really intend to be the president, or was it a press stunt? At the time, it was a press stunt.
It was. And suddenly he realized he had tapped into something with, all kinds of grievances and perceived victimhood. And again, that's not who Donald Trump was. Donald Trump was a New York liberal for a big chunk of his life, until it was convenient for him as a businessman to make some money going into politics. And he's normalized all of this arm sweeping gesture around us ever since. And it all started 10 years ago today. Along with Take Your Cat to Work Day, this is Clean Your Kitchen Vents Day. Who comes up with these?
No, thank you.
Kitchen vents.
Clean your kitchen vents. I mean, especially if you've got a cat. I mean, there's fur everywhere. This is International Waterfall Day. I should have had something prepped about the ways you can see all these waterfalls around northern Wisconsin and upper Michigan and northern Minnesota. There's all kinds of great waterfall trips that you could go on here. It's World Sea Turtle Day, which is something we talked about here. We're visiting friends in Canada, but these are friends that we actually met and made when we lived down in Grand Cayman. And down there on a couple of the beaches, if you're out swimming in the ocean, you will still see some sea turtles, and you can swim along with the sea turtles. And, don't touch them, but they don't mind. They're just going around doing their thing. This is Learning Disabilities Week. This is National Fudge Day. So head over to, what's that candy shop down the road? Kilwin's, is it? Down on State Street? And then up in Minocqua and elsewhere, go get yourself some nice fresh fudge. And finally, this is National Diabetes Week. So,
they go together.
Yeah, I was going to say. Yeah, so
you're welcome.
Kristin could probably tell you something about, again, taking care of yourself, monitoring your meds or your blood sugars.
Fudge in moderation.
Fudge in moderation. Perfect.
I ate so much fudge. I worked at a candy shop.
When did you work at a candy shop?
Oh gosh, in college. So yeah, I made fudge at a candy store. I ate so much fudge.
That sounds awesome. That sounds so good.
Parker right now is like
all kinds,
tummy grumbling.
Meat and oh my gosh, any kind you could imagine.
Did they serve tapeworms as well, that you're still basically a size 0 after all these years? What?
Well, we had ice cream, jelly bellies, all sorts of things, and I ate so much.
Oh, there's so many people jealous right now, but all right, glad it worked out for you. Hang around. You're going to tell us about the one of the organizers of the Chippewa Valley No Kings rally that was held over the weekend, and Dr. Lyerly sticks around as well. Parker Olson is with us from Madison. We're going to have Jeffrey Mandell from Law Forward in at 7:30, author Laura Bird at 8:30. That and much more on this Monday morning, where I'm live from Saskatchewan, stranded, hoping to get home soon here on the Civic Media Radio Network. There we go.
Yeah, I couldn't have busted that one out this morning. Drop it in octave, maybe.
Yeah.
It must have been
love. Nope. Oh, man. So on Saturday, when we thought was going to be our only full day here, it was cloudy and cool. And so we just did stuff around. We saw
Regina?
some of the sites around Regina. Yes, not just the dirty snow piles. Boy, there's a place here that makes sourdough donuts that are just amazing. Oh God, I had a maple bacon apple fritter that
Uh,
I'm gonna be thinking about that for a long time.
Well,
Um,
bacon
anyway,
on everything.
yes,
Yes.
but it was like I said, almost chilly. And then, of course, we headed to the airport yesterday, and then our flight was canceled. And so our friends came back and got us. And it was sunny and 83 yesterday. And
oh,
the camera's weird enough already with the green screen and everything, but I haven't had a sunburn in a long time. And now
And
I'm
you got
sunburned
one in Regina.
in
oh,
A
Regina, of all
Regina
places.
sunburn. That's in
Oh,
Regina of all
yeah, you
places.
normally got to see your OBGYN for that. Yeah,
It's a
oh boy.
sensitive subject.
yes, exactly. Phew. Right.
It never gets old, the
It,
middle school jokes about
I
the name of the biggest
said the
city in Saskatchewan.
OBGYN.
I know. You're welcome.
That's what's so funny.
Oh, wow.
How about like here in Eau Claire, we have the planet names. So if you live on Uranus, then
Yes. Oh, the Uranus jokes.
similar. I have
Yep.
friends who live on Uranus.
Yep.
Yeah, many
Uh,
friends.
oh gosh. Let's see. Did we? Nope. We're all clean there. Okay. And
Salina, which clip are you going to want?
oh
First,
yes.
you know?
48-second one. We love democracy.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have my usual notes and stuff here, so you're gonna have to really make sure to lead into these good,
Okay.
and then just go from one right. When you finish the first clip, just go ahead and quickly transition and introduce the next one if you're able.
Okay.
So, all right, I will be right back. Yes, of course we can. I was actually just about to, and then we got sidetracked on something else here. So
Weird.
yeah, I know us getting sidetracked.
Never happens.
Mm-hmm. I had to put my contacts in so we wouldn't get this glare off because I've got the window right in front of me here. But I don't have my readers. So I'm looking like an old man over here getting so close to the screen. There we go.
It is a little bit of a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
I put one contact in. Like, I don't have any in right now, but I usually put one in.
Yeah.
And my brain just knows to use that one to look far. And then my not contact eye is my reader. And it just switches, which I didn't think would work for me because I get carsick pretty easily. So I thought I would get nauseated. But it actually works really, really well. And half price contacts.
They have contacts that you can do bottom and whatever. Did you
That
know?
didn't, yeah,
didn't-
I tried that, but it didn't work. It was weird for me. But this really works well.
Oh. One eyeball for one thing.
Your brain just knows. Although I'll say, like, if I'm going to a football game or something or a concert and I really want to see well, I'll put both of them in. But for just like if I go for a bike ride, I'll just wear one.
Hi, Brittany.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Pat, do you want me to do the
Oh,
live
yes,
again?
absolutely. You
Sure.
bet. Yes. Let's
All
roll
right.
with it.
Cool.
30
Make it through the bit.
seconds.
30. Yep.
Parker gives us a live show open today. So,
Ooh.
I know. He's got many
Because he had to get
talents.
stuck in Canada. Gee.
Yeah, I know. All right, 15 seconds.
On the Civic Media Radio Network, this is a special live edition of Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News. Pat's not live from Lake Wissota, where he normally is. Instead, he's live, but he's kind of stuck in Canada.
Yeah.
Joining us now is the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Kreitlow.
Well, Parker Olson, thank you so much. How do you think he did, ladies?
He was
Yep.
great.
All right.
Yeah. I was expecting you to say Regina, but you did good.
He really wanted you to say Regina.
He really did. The OBGYN is the one telling Regina jokes around here. So good morning,
Yes.
everybody.
Well,
Welcome back.
I know.
It is 6:06 here in Regina, Saskatchewan, on the prairies. 7:06 back in Wisconsin. Nice to have you along as we get rolling here with an up north edition of the show. It's not just that Tony's making comments up north in Ashland, or that Kristin Lyerly's up north in Hibbing, Minnesota, but somebody had to be up north of the border for the weekend and tried to get back yesterday, and his flight was canceled. So we're going back to the airport in Regina, even before the show is over, to try to make sure I can get home again and see if they'll let me back through. But in the meantime, today we've got Jeff Mandell from Law Forward joining us at the bottom of the hour here to talk about the group's efforts to avoid future instances of attempted billionaire bribery of our elections. In our 8 o'clock hour, we'll talk to author Laura Bird about memoirs, how they're not quite the same as autobiographies, and then she's got several great recommendations for memoirs that you can put on your summer reading list. We'll talk a little sports from over the weekend. Jimmy Costco will be along. John and Gordy from our Madison Civic Media station will be here. Jane Matinair will preview her show coming up next on the Civic Media Radio Network. But first, I can report that from up here, it was sunny and near the mid 80s, Brittany, yesterday, where my first sunburn of the year came in Saskatchewan, of all places.
Wow.
Any chance that streak of warm weather continues when I get back to Wisconsin? Hopefully today.
Well, the warmth will be here. We're waiting for you. I promise you that.
Okay, good.
But the sunshine, that's going to be far and few between, unfortunately. So we do have spots of it right now this morning. It is much further off to the east and down to the south. We are looking at swaths of moderate rain trying to roll in now towards Madison area. We've also got a few tiny little storms popping up from La Crosse up north, just to the east of the Chippewa Valley. And of course, those will be moving east as they go through this late morning. Otherwise, this afternoon, pretty calm out there. We will see partial sunshine. Highs will reach about 80 to 85 degrees today. It's going to be warm. It's going to be muggy. You can already feel it. It's kind of sticky out there this morning. Plus, we've got chances for strong to severe thunderstorms pushing through this evening. So as this warm front lifts in, storms are going to be sparking up, and a cold front does move through behind that. So this evening, probably around 6 to 8 o'clock or so, far northwest, it's probably the worst chances for these storms to have some large hail, damaging high wind gusts, and a tornado is possible too. So keep an eye on that. This area, of course, will be from Polk to St. Croix to Pierce counties, and then a slight risk still continues into the Eau Claire, Chippewa Valley, even up towards Douglas County and all the way down towards Trempealeau County. Those are severe areas where we are looking at those storms still staying strong. Now, as they move towards the central parts of the state and off east through about evening, now this is after dark, probably around midnight or so to be towards the Dells and Green Bay, and then overnight towards Madison and Milwaukee, it should weaken. Of course, hail and high winds are still possible, but that tornado risk kind of winds down as we go into the evening. So that's moving through this evening, and we're still going to hang on to the heat and humidity tomorrow. More storms are going to be popping up. We'll keep tracking that for you. But we got to get through today first. So stay weather savvy this evening.
All right, we will do that. Brittany Merlot, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. Geez, we were so busy in our last hour. I didn't even get to the Brewers taking 3 out of 4 from the Cardinals over the weekend, which was a pretty nice deal. You had Christian Yelich hitting a home run. Trevor McGill escaped a jam in the ninth inning and gave the Brewers a 3-2 victory over the Cards. In the finale of that 4-game series, the Brewers took 3 out of 4 from St. Louis. They've won 4 out of their last 6. Today, the Brewers have their first day off since the start of that 10-day homestand, which they split 5 wins, 5 losses. Now they are on the road this week with 3 games at Wrigley against the Chicago Cubs, then a weekend series next weekend at Target Field against the Minnesota Twins. And as for the Brewers playing the Cubs in this upcoming series, again off today, but it resumes tomorrow at Wrigley Field. Pregame begins at 6:30 on several Civic Media stations. Head over to civicmedia.us to learn more. The NBA Finals are tied up at 2 games apiece. Game 5 is tonight in Oklahoma City against Indiana. And up here in hockey, in the Stanley Cup Finals, where folks up here would normally be rooting for, maybe Calgary or Edmonton. Edmonton is in the Stanley Cup Finals, and they are down 3-2. Florida could clinch the cup tomorrow. Game 6 in Florida. But if Edmonton wins, Game 7 will be Friday in Edmonton. And believe me, everybody around here is, we'll have Oilers gear and just be rooting to finally give Canada their first Stanley Cup in a long, long time. And Kristin, you've got enough hockey going up around you to know that there are probably not a lot of Florida Panthers fans up on the range there.
Yeah, no. I mean, I'm like 30 minutes away from the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame. It's all about the hockey up here. But we don't get that so much in Wisconsin because we don't have a pro team.
No, I know. And we haven't seen the Wild or the Blackhawks do much in several years in terms of advancing. So for us, it's much more of a national thing here, whether a Canadian team is going to win or not, or a team from Florida.
I think we got to lean in more with regards to hockey on Badger women's hockey because they are freaking awesome all the time.
Oh my goodness! Yeah.
Perfect.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh no, we have championed them a lot here, and we'll continue to do so. Let's see from Robin Tigerton. He says, got to go find it here. Good morning from Tigerton. Cloudy and 55. I was busy Saturday doing a mowing job with the recent rains and warmer weather. I will be busy mowing lawns while dodging the raindrops. He said last night he had homemade pizza at his sister Lori's house in Caroline. She and her granddaughter Evelyn are going to Belgium for a 2-week tour. Let's see. He says his thoughts and prayers are with the families of the 2 Minnesota lawmakers. It's sad why people have to have different political views that can't get along and talk about their differences. Says that yesterday his cousin Lori Griepentrog passed away. She operated Matthew's Supper Club in Clintonville and gave me a spaghetti dinner for my birthday. Used to stay on the family farm when we were growing up, and then again wants to say 5 of the best people to wake up to on a Monday: Pat, Kristin, Salina, Brittany, and Parker. So thank you very much for all of that. Cassandra adds, by the way, congrats to Kakana softball for winning the state title.
Go Ghosts! Woo woo!
Not just the state title, an undefeated season all the way through. Not a single loss to Kakana on their way to the state title.
Ever? I don't think they lose at all.
I think they lost 1 game last season, and I think it might have been the state. Yeah, they've won like 5 years in a row. They're ridiculously good. This is not the Kakana I went to high school in. This is a whole new thing.
Yeah, Kristin's gone. We can be good at sports now. Congrats to all the champions: Kakana in Division 1, Denmark in Division 2, Poinet in Division 3, Mishicot in D4, and Belmont in Division 5. Those are all of your state softball champions. So thanks to everybody for reminding us to say our best to all those softball teams for a great season. Salina Heller talked to one of the organizers of the Chippewa Valley No Kings Rally, one of many that were held across the country over the weekend. So Salina, tell us a bit more. We've spoken to the organizer. We've heard from her on this program before, and you got a chance to talk to her with her thoughts on how things went over the weekend.
Yeah, Cindy Greening is the leader of the Chippewa Valley Indivisible group that organized the No Kings Rally here in Eau Claire on Saturday, and then also Chippewa Falls later that day. So there were different estimates of the crowd size. There are either 3,000 to 4,000 or just over that. So there was a big turnout, and she said it was kind of one of those events and days that kind of restores your faith in humanity, kind of a thing. So it was just a positive thing, and this is what she had to say about the event on Saturday in Eau Claire.
The main thing we started with, honestly, we talked about refreshing the Tree of Liberty, and that we were getting together because there are no kings in America, not now, not ever, and that we were here to celebrate we the people and to fight for our democracy and stand for our rights, that we were going to stand together with our friends and neighbors in our community to protect seniors, to protect veterans, to protect children, to protect people, to make sure that we had a government that worked for us and not the billionaires, and that we had economic justice for all people, so that a decent week of work gave you a decent living. That was our stand. And our chant was, we are peaceful, we are joyful, we are free, and we love democracy.
And so one of the things she said, even though you have to keep having more events and more rallies going forward and kind of the things to do next. And one of those things to do next is involve more people. And so that's what she talked about here.
One of my favorite things that happened yesterday, in my speech, I said, we need to welcome everyone. I welcome everyone who's here. The Dems are here. The progressives are here. The 50-51 is here. The Working Family Party, the unions. And I hope our Republican friends are here. And the whole audience cheered. And I'm like, you guys, that's awesome. We need them. Thank you for cheering. We want our Republican friends with us. And so it was amazing. That was like one of those moments that gave me goosebumps, seriously, because there was no booing. There was not, it was just like, yes, they are our community too. We want them safe too. And so that's what we're working on now, getting more people to join us, and then working on these things that are supporting the people who have money, so that we can have a representative government where they vote for us and what we need.
So she said it was just just generally a nice positive event where they set out on a march, and there were so many people. This march was almost 2 miles long, and the beginning got back, and the end still hadn't left yet.
Oh my.
So, yeah, it was just the people waited patiently an hour and to be in that line to march around the town, and it was just a neat event, she said.
Oh wow. Well, that's an amazing turnout. And Kristin, you said you saw a great turnout in northern Minnesota, of all places.
Yeah, we had over 500 people in a town that only has 3,000 people. Pretty impressive. And they were all over the place. I mean, if you looked at the No Kings maps, they were up in Canada. They were in Europe. They were in Guam, on almost every continent, because there are Americans everywhere. There are people who stand with us everywhere. And I love your point, Salina, about it's not Democrats, it's not Republicans, it's about us.
Yeah, without a doubt. Kristin, we got a minute here before break. You want to tell us what is happening on the Dr. Kristin Lyerly show?
Oh my gosh, we had such a great light episode over the weekend. I just had a nice conversation with Pete Schwaba. Pete, our host for Nightlight on Civic Media. He unpacks some parts of his history. He was a stand-up comedian, and he has this great movie that he directed, produced, wrote, and starred in called The Godfather of Green Bay. I'm determined to turn it into a cult classic. Watch for it this fall.
The Godfather of Green Bay.
It's so good. There's the Macarena. There are all these little green. I mean, if you love the Packers, if you get Northeast Wisconsin, you got to see it.
Okay. Well, there you go. All right. Well, we'll look forward to that. Kristin Lyerly is with us here, as is Salina Heller, Up North News reporter. And still ahead, we will be talking to Jeff Mandell from Law Forward. Then author Laura Bird yet before things are all done. From the heart of America's up north all the way to the Canadian prairie, thanks for making this a place to spend part of your mornings. I'm Pat Kreitlow, and this is the Civic Media Radio Network. We'll be back. All right.
I just cannot get out of my mind, unleash the Kraken.
Where is that box? Here it is. Let's see. It's a very green. This is a very green box here.
One of my boys has that one. My oldest son is actually going to Austin, Texas this weekend because he's been playing Counter-Strike for over a decade, and he and his friends are going for a worldwide Counter-Strike. It's like a sporting event, but it's video games.
Wow.
Yeah,
Esports is huge. Like, there's a ton of money in it too.
Yeah. He's been wanting to go to this Counter-Strike thing, but it's usually not in the US, so it's in Austin this year. And he's as excited to go to this as he would be to go to the Super Bowl.
Okay. Meanwhile, down the road here, there was a rodeo this weekend because, of course, you're on the prairie. there's rodeos. And that included chuck wagon races.
Oh.
And so I read up a little bit about that. We're like, what is this? Chuck wagon races. The biggest one is at the Calgary Stampede, which I'm sure you've heard of. And there is a chuck wagon racing circuit, and the purse at the Calgary Stampede is $2 million.
What?
For chuck wagon racing.
My gosh.
Chuck wagon just makes me think of dog food.
I know. Again, Kristin, you're so old now. We're the only ones. It makes the gravy, right? You know.
Oh yeah.
See.
Nice.
Wow. Can you imagine, though, the expense of dragging all that equipment around and those animals? And
oh, yeah. I mean,
that's no joke.
And these are folks, they don't bring, like...
Sorry, Parker.
Yeah, no clue.
There was this old commercial where there was this chuck wagon, and it made dog food gravy, and yeah. I don't know why it made sense at the time.
It did, and this little chuck wagon would go around the dog and around the bag of dog food, and gosh, it was adorable.
It actually made the dog food look kind of tasty.
I know.
I didn't eat it. I didn't have a dog.
Here we go.
Tasty.
Well, getting back to the news of the day now at 7:23 here across the Civic Media Radio Network. I'm Pat Kreitlow along with Kristin Lyerly and Salina Heller. I do have to note that before the tragic events in Minnesota over the weekend, there was some other news I was going to be spending more time on, and that was the legislature's Joint Finance Committee working on a new state budget and deciding, rather than going along with Governor Evers and improving mental health resources in our schools, or even staying flat, they cut the funding. They put a cut into the funding of mental health resources. You know, the same people, Kristin, who tell us when there is some kind of a terrible shooting incident, oh, we don't need to do anything about the guns. We need to take care of mental health. It's a mental health problem. And then they go and do this.
And we are experiencing record numbers of mental health issues as a population right now. We need more resources in mental health, and we just frankly don't have enough. I'm way up in northern Minnesota. We admitted somebody from southern Minnesota. They went right through the cities and came right up to us because there were no resources there for them. Come on, guys. Let's work together.
And there's such long waiting lists to get in, and that's something you don't need a waiting list. You can't have a waiting list for months to get to somebody.
Yeah, I mean, it just won't get done. So I wanted to make sure to pass that along. There was also the military parade in Washington, D.C. over the weekend, which, again, is no knock on our military. I've said the Army deserved a better 250th birthday than to become one president's vanity project, and it was underwhelming. I mean, the crowds, especially. I thought maybe there'd be a lot of people going there to protest the parade, and then that just would have given Donald Trump what he wanted, confrontation. And instead, everybody rallied and did stuff in their hometowns all around the country. And it was, I don't want to say it was crickets for the parade, but it was the next best thing. Like the last part of the parade was like one tank, and the crowd was so small you could hear it squeaking as it went by. You just heard this eat,
Yeah,
Importantly, I think we have to mention that they don't drill for this. In other countries, they drill for parades. Our army does not drill for parades because that is not something that we don't have to do a show of strength. We are the United States Army. So happy birthday to the Army. Thank you for all. You're like moms. You're always there. You're not showy. We know we can count on you. We are so profoundly grateful and sad that this president felt that he needed to co-opt your birthday for his own party.
Yeah, and at Salina, at such a price, at 45, what that $45 million could do for veterans in Wisconsin.
Yes.
For their health care.
Oh, so much. I read so many things over the weekend about that kind of thing, and and all of the veterans who were out in the No Kings rallies too, and that just goes to show, they have different thoughts on that matter.
Oh yeah, I mean, again, there were veterans there there were World War II veterans at some of these places saying, "I fought Nazis the first time," willing to do it again. There were places where elderly veterans were, arrested because they were protesting, and law enforcement at some community or another didn't like what they were doing. But no, it cuts across all demographics, including Republicans, including veterans, including fiscal conservatives, who looked at the cost of that parade and who look at the budget cuts and see that the budget cuts are just going to billionaire tax breaks. And so those aren't the kind of budget cuts that they were looking for. So that, to me, Kristin, was one of the main themes of the weekend, was the unity. There was unity in grief, of course, at what happened in Minnesota, but there was unity in purpose as to why people wanted to get together this weekend and send this message.
And rallies aren't for everyone. There are a lot of people who feel uncomfortable in those big environments where, let's be honest, especially in Minnesota, people were warned not to go there because of the potential for conflict. But there are so many other ways, too, where you can show your support for each other. You can pay more attention to good news outlets. You can volunteer in your community. You can do something as simple as call an old friend and have a real conversation that has facts and feelings in it. We need to reconnect with each other, and a rally is just one place where you can find like-minded people who feel the same way that you do about what's happening in this country and where we can take it.
Yeah, we can do these things with a minimal drama. I was in a chat group with some family members. Again, lovely people, but as they were starting to go off on a tangent about vaccines, you don't have to pick a fight. I just calmly grabbed the proper fact check about what they were talking about, dropped it into the chat, and that was kind of the end of it. Because again, it's just like, look, we can all talk, but let's go find a trusted resource and see what they have to say. Not the kind of honestly garbage that Robert Kennedy Jr. was saying about the polio vaccine had killed more people than it helped, or just something ridiculous with, again, no evidence, nothing to back it up. And we should just simply expect better. And if you're not sure about something, then just keep poking around, Kristin. We don't get to say to Dr. Lyerly, well, we'll just agree to disagree. No, one went to medical school.
Well, and I don't mean to assert my dominance in this situation. I want to have a conversation. When I am meeting with a patient and their family in an exam room, I want to hear everything that they are worried about. I want to debunk misinformation because there's so much out there. When we hear Robert F. Kennedy Jr. talking about polio or about how he's going to have the cure for autism come September, you know that is political and that is misinformation. There is no cure for autism. It is multifactorial. There are lots of different things. And yeah, there's an environmental aspect to it, but vaccines are not the cause for autism. Vaccines have been an incredible advance in public health. They've saved so many lives, and we need to have these conversations. If we don't, misinformation will fill in the gaps and people will die.
Catch the Dr. Kristin Lyerly Show on the Civic Media Radio Network over the weekends, and Salina Heller on social media for Up North News. Search for Up North News WI. Salina, bring your cat to work day.
Thank you.
And,
Well,
Kristin, there you go. Take care, Kristin. I'll talk to you later in the week.
Let me know if you need any help with your Regina sunburn.
oh geez. One more. Gotta get one more.
Moving on, we'll talk to Jeff Mandell from Law Forward next here on the Civic Media Radio Network.
You could put some ointment on it.
Wow. Okay, I'm gonna get Jeff.
Okay. See y'all later.
Have a great day. Safe
Okay.
travels, Pat.
Okay,
Yeah,
thanks.
safe
Bye.
travels.
Hey, Pat. Are you there right now? Crap. Hey. Hey, Pat.
Hello.
Jeff came into the studio, I guess, like 10 minutes ago, or came into the station like 10 minutes ago,
Uh-huh.
and apparently didn't realize which show he was going to be on. And my studio is not as seen as the other one is. Hang on. I'm explaining it right now. Went over to John Gordy's studio and was told, "You're not on our show today," and is no longer here.
Well, that's going to make a good story in a couple of minutes here, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. So I got 30 seconds to find something to talk about. All right. Well,
Yes.
all right.
Sorry
All
about
right.
that.
Okay. So live radio is fun. Live radio can be funny.
Today is the
And
day of all days.
today yeah, exactly. Let me tell you, before we tell you why we don't have a guest coming up here, I will tell you that again, for folks watching on social media and they're going, why is there a fake background behind you? Well, because I'm in a friend's guest bedroom in Regina where I'm currently stranded. And there's nothing on the walls here. It looks terrible. So I took a picture of the backyard where I would love to be doing the show, but it's too far away from their router. And you can't really see Parker from here, but look around in here. There are prairie dog holes in this thing. There are prairie dogs out in this backyard. They're on a couple of acres here,
I didn't realize
and
there was that much nature there. Wow.
oh yeah. So I go upstairs and Sherry's up on the deck there, and taking in the sunrise, and is watching the prairie dogs frolicking in the backyard. So I got that going for me, which is nice. If you're going to be stuck in Canada for one extra day, you may as well make the best of it with the prairie dogs. Anyway, so I'm upstairs doing that, and then come back down and expecting to see Jeff Mandell from Law Forward, and we've learned a lesson here today about the worldwide reach of civic media and the many studios that you have. And you often hear me say that Parker is in Studio A2. Well, there is an A1, and it's where John and Gordy do their show for the local Madison station. And that's the one that you see when you first walk into the civic media offices. You see that spacious A1. Parker's in a broom closet down the hall.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's A2, and it works. It works fine, especially since he put that civic media banner up behind him, so it no longer looks as sparse as this guest bedroom looks. So at least we know. However, when our guest arrived and only saw Studio A1, and the guys there said, "Well, we don't have you down as a guest," Jeff headed back out. So we don't have Jeff Mandell here right now. So it's somebody that will reach and rebook at another time and put them on there. In the meantime, you get me talking about prairie dogs and things like
Hey,
that.
I like that. I can listen to prairie dog talk.
Yeah, it totally does. And we have other things, of course, to go over, things that we didn't think we'd have time for because of the events over the weekend and the guests that we have and everything else going on. For example, the Democratic State Convention did take place over the weekend, and a new chair was elected, and it is Devin Remiker. Devin was the former executive director of the party. He was endorsed by Ben Wickler, the outgoing chair, and won. He had a lead after the first round of voting, not quite a majority. And then what happened is they used ranked choice voting. And so the person who came in third in this case was William Garcia. So he was eliminated. And in ranked choice voting, if you're not familiar with it, you don't just fill out a ballot with one person's name. You can rank the candidates as many as you want or as few as you want. In this case, I'm guessing almost everybody ranked a 1, 2, and 3 on theirs. And so with William Garcia coming in third and being eliminated, they look at all of his ballots and say, okay, now take his number 2 choices and go over here. And when all was said and done, there were just enough more votes for Devin Remiker to give him a majority and hence a victory over Joe Zepecki in this race. Though I don't doubt for a moment that Joe Zepecki and William Garcia are going to stay active and positive and united. And that's what the party is looking for heading into the 2026 cycle when they're taking on people like Derek Van Orden. And I believe Tony's putting up on YouTube right now. Can we just riff on how awful Derek Van Orden is? I think like a whole segment, swearing optional. Yeah, swearing will have to be optional because of the way that radio works. However, in light of the murder of a Minnesota lawmaker and her husband, and the shooting and wounding of another Minnesota lawmaker and his wife, Derek Van Orden was among those spreading misinformation and essentially downright gleeful. Almost in their sounding about, oh, this was a far lefty who shot and killed these people and wounded these people. And that wasn't the case at all. This was a typical white Christian nationalist who had worked for security firms, who had done you know, some preaching that could very easily be called politically extreme. And he was one of theirs. But because it wasn't obvious at first, people like Van Orden and Scott Walker and Utah Senator Mike Lee were spreading misinformation, and again, in an almost gleeful way. And then when somebody called out Van Orden on it, and I don't have the exact tweet in front of me, but saying something about, we'll get you next time. And it was obvious from anybody's point of view that this person was talking about at the ballot box, Derek Van Orden, coming up for re-election in 2026. And again, a sitting congressman had to do the most juvenile of things and say, "What do you mean next time? Is that a threat? I'm going to have you reported," or something like that. That's the kind of insecure person we have representing Congress in the 3rd District right now in western and parts of central Wisconsin. And again, I could spend time telling you the kinds of things that Scott Walker said or others that said it. I'm going to leave it there to say that thank goodness there are now places like Civic Media, Up North News, Courier Newsroom, and others, because I have no confidence that some of the more traditional media sites would tell you all of this. Instead, they would simply get away with it, or they would say something about, well, somebody was fact challenged or premature in their speculation about the events. No, they were straight up passing along misinformation, which, again, any old keyboard warrior can do that, not an elected official. Again, there's supposed to be a higher standard. And when Tony puts on YouTube there, the thinnest skinned politician I've ever seen, he's not kidding. Because we've talked about this with Van Orden and others. I think of legislators. A good example would be State Senator Romaine Quinn up in Rice Lake. They love to get into the comment sections and mix it up with people. And by mix it up, I don't mean simply setting the record straight. I'm talking a level of insults and things like that are just, again, should be beneath the dignity of the office. And I know we talk a lot about how we get cynical about politicians, and we don't hold them to as high a standard as we should. The fact of the matter is we should. The fact of the matter is we do spend so much time trashing politicians that now far too many politicians think, well, I guess that's what we're supposed to be, is we're supposed to be down here in the gutter. It's certainly the kind of thing that Donald Trump normalized starting 10 years ago today when he went for that ride down that escalator. We don't have to let that happen, and that was really a big part of the point of view of the rallies. So, I mean, look, you're going to have people that would rather make up impressions of that military parade, much like Trump's first inauguration, and try to talk about crowd size and that it was all of that. No, our wonderful military was co-opted by a president who was as insecure as Derek Van Orden or anybody else. Cassandra puts up on YouTube, honestly, 2 people were brutally murdered and all they want to do is develop conspiracy theories. Imagine how their children are feeling today. And Hartman's son is getting married later this year, and now his mom and his dad won't be there. Again, they're humans. And yet we've had such a trend of dehumanizing politicians that come from other politicians who either dehumanize their opponents or they dehumanize people like immigrants. And that's the thing to keep in mind about this particular tragedy. When this happened, it's also part of what led to the conspiracy theories to begin with. And what I mean by that is, let's talk about Representative Melissa Hortman for a moment, the one who was murdered along with her husband. She had been Speaker of the Minnesota House of Representatives for 6 years prior, and actually should have still been Speaker. But when Donald Trump won election in November, there were enough other close races that for a time the Minnesota House of Representatives was split down the middle, 67 and 67. And so in a power sharing agreement, Melissa Hortman stepped down as Speaker, served instead as Democratic leader, and a Republican was serving as the Speaker. They're doing their state budget cycle right now, same as here in Wisconsin. Unlike Wisconsin, where state government doesn't shut down, if there's no budget deal, then the old budget just continues. In Minnesota, there can be a shutdown of state government if a new budget bill isn't passed, and that means a lot of essential services don't get carried out. Melissa Hortman made the politically courageous decision to understand that sometimes you don't get everything you want, but you still serve the greater good. It brought her much pain to agree to this budget deal where Republicans were threatening to shut down state government unless the budget deal included a provision that would make undocumented immigrants in Minnesota ineligible for the state's version of Medicaid, the healthcare program for low-income residents. So again, let me make this clear. This was Minnesota Republicans saying we will shut down government because we want to tell fellow human beings they're not human enough for us to get help when they're sick or ill or in an accident. Hortman, being the leader of the Democrats, did not put anybody else at political risk. To make sure that the bill would pass and state government would continue on, she was the lone Democratic vote, so that bill would pass, I would imagine, 68 to 66. And she was in tears afterwards. She told reporters afterwards, I know people will be hurt by that vote. But she said, I did what leaders do. I stepped up and I got the job done for the people of Minnesota. It did lead to speculation and rampant misinformation that it was that vote that triggered what they wanted to believe was a left-wing gunman who killed her and her husband and shot and wounded another legislator and his wife. But this gunman's history is very much in line with growing right-wing violence. It was clear this was something that he had been planning for a time. There were the preparations there. And while we don't know his full motives, let's say this much. The Minnesota House of Representatives is now one Democrat short. And for a time, the Minnesota Senate will be one Democrat short. It too is closely divided. And the only right thing to happen right now is for the Republicans in the Minnesota House and the Senate for that matter to say that there will be one of their own members who will not be casting votes, that you will not let murder determine the voting majority and political control in the Minnesota legislature. That's a must. It's an absolute must. Maybe it's happened already. I haven't checked. I certainly don't expect Republican leadership to be defiant about this somehow. They joined with Minnesota Democrats in condemning these killings. And by the way, the same happened for the Big Four in Wisconsin, where the Democratic and Republican leaders all made statements together condemning this violence. You cannot allow it to change the voting counts in these places, because if we do, I mean, I already fear we're going to see more of this as it is. It's just not something we want to encourage. John and Gordy and Laura Bird are in our next hour here on the Civic Media Radio Network. So some of you will be breaking away for a local update. For others, you get to hang out here with me and Parker and Jimmy Koska, who's here now. Hello, Jimmy.
What's going on? Yeah, I don't know how we transitioned to sports from that. I mean, that was really well done. So
thankfully, we've got a 3.5 minute break that lets us do that. So
oh my goodness. By the way, just for you guys, so you guys are saying my last name the same as like I am. It's Kuska. Like pretend the A's are U's.
I'm so sorry.
No, you're good. I just want to make sure that I'm on and I'm still doing news and lacrosse, and I'm doing sports sometimes for Clemens. So if the update comes on and I'm saying my last name differently, it might sound weird. So
okay, yeah.
Oh,
you're very right.
I blame my grandpa. My grandpa came over, and that's how he determined it was pronounced all those years ago. So it's his fault.
It's not a worry. I see that a lot in like genealogy and things where last names get spelled differently.
Yep,
Or
my grandpa and his brother changed it. So my grandpa spelled it with Kaska. His brother had it Kostka. My grandpa spelled it differently because he built the resort in northwestern Wisconsin, and he thought it looked better on a sign. So,
well, hey, whatever reason works there.
well,
So
the name that they picked it from was actually the last handful of letters and consonants from something that was unwieldy long. Like on an NBA uniform, it'd be an arch. It was a lot of letters. I can't even
yes,
begin to pronounce it, but
yeah. I think they probably made the right call then.
probably. But I gave you a list of topics, so if we should be good to go there.
But did you do it by chat or by email? I'm a little.
I'm using chat.
If
If you
in
want
the
email, I
chat.
can do email too.
Nope,
So.
nope. I got it right here. I got it.
Just a few suggested topics. If there's something else you want to talk about, I'm ready for it.
Yep. Okay. State track, Brewers, Bucks. Yep. Nope. This all tracks. This will be just fine. Parker, are we gonna switch at the top of the hour then? Switch StreamYard links, or are we? I think we should do it at the top of the hour.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best time too.
Okay. And then John and Gordy, you're still good to join us at the top?
As far as I know, yes.
Okay. And then who's going to talk to Laura Bird? Have you got a place where she's going to be? And is it going to be you or anybody joining you?
She has been texting me. She'll be here probably in like 10 minutes or so. I'll get her in.
Okay. Sounds good. Let's see. We got we got 40 seconds from right now. So, all right. Stand by. Fifteen seconds. Where the prairie dogs are gallivanting here in Saskatchewan. Welcome back to the program. Pat Kreitlow up here in Regina, stranded, heading to the airport soon, hoping today's flight will go off without a hitch. Then there's Parker Olson in Madison A2. If you missed that story, he's not in A1. We'll talk to John and Gordy about that coming up in 15 minutes. And Jimmy Kuska joins us right now to talk about sports as well. Jimmy, how are you?
I'm doing great. It's funny. The last time I was in Canada, I was covering Northwoods League baseball. The Eau Claire Express played Thunder Bay, so that's the last time I actually got to go to Canada, and that was more of a work thing. So I'm a little jealous of you because Canada is awesome.
It is. Oh, it is awesome, and we had a lovely time. We just weren't expecting it to be extended by 24 hours. We had our. There's a Tim Hortons, of course, everywhere here. So we had our Tim Hortons coffee and a donut at the airport, and waiting and waiting and waiting, and finally they announced that they can't fix whatever's with the plane and it's canceled. So if nothing else, in about an hour or so, I'm going to get another Tim Hortons breakfast and coffee and a donut, and we'll see if things go better before I try to escape Canada once again. So we've had a busy weekend in sports. You had the Brewers taking 3 of 4 from the Cardinals, and now it's another big week for the Brewers. They get today off, but it's not much rest given what lies ahead of them this week.
This week is a massively important week for them because they have a chance to make up some serious ground in the standings. They'll play the Cubs for 3 games this week, and the Cubs, of course, are leading the NL Central. So for the Brewers, who are still trailing in the wild card race, they have a big opportunity to move up, and what is really shaping up to be a pretty crowded chase for that wild card spot. But more importantly, if they want to get back into it in the division, I mean, this is a big opportunity for them here in the middle of June to start making some ground up, making some moves. We've seen in MLB already that just seeing what teams are doing. The Red Sox just dealt away their best player for prospects yesterday. I mean, we're getting close to the trade deadline and everything else in the MLB. Things are fascinating this time of year.
Who did the Red Sox deal away?
Dealt away Devers.
Oh.
He's a big time hitter. He went to San Francisco for 4 prospects. So
Wow, okay. As for the Brewers yesterday, Christian Yelich homered. Trevor McGill got out of a jam in the ninth inning to give the Brewers that 3-2 victory over the Cardinals, taking 3 out of 4. Quinn Priester pitched 6 innings, giving up only 1 run. So, again, the on-again, off-again Brewers pitching, was on again yesterday. And now this is their first day off since that started that 10-game homestand, back on the road. Cubs, then Twins. Cubs starting tomorrow, 6:30 the pregame on several civic media stations. Jimmy, what was your thoughts on the departure of a key member of the Packers roster, Jair Alexander?
For the Packers, this was coming months ago. I think we knew this was happening for a while. There wasn't going to be a happy ending to that when money's involved and everything like that. A big contract, a big amount of money was due to him, and the Packers just couldn't rely on him. And we heard it from Brian Gutekunst that they've put a lot of effort into making him available. They've given him plenty of time to come back from injuries, things like that. But boy, the price tag was just a big one to swallow if you weren't going to get him for the majority of games this year. So be curious to see where he goes. He's obviously going to have a lot of interest. Defensive back is a very important position in the NFL, but the way the contract was, it just wasn't going to happen the way for a happy ending without him changing his contract. It wasn't going to be Jair in Green Bay too much longer. So.
No. Well, let's go to high school next then. The softball championships were held over the weekend. Congrats to Kaukauna for an undefeated season in Division 1, Denmark in D2, Poinet D3, Mishicot, your Division 4 champion, and Belmont in Division 5 as we continue, Jimmy, a busy postseason tournament time for spring high school sports.
Yeah, this week is a great week because state baseball is one of my favorite events to broadcast from. This is being held at the Wisconsin Timber Rattler Stadium in Grand Chute. So for people that go out there, if you're a fan of high school sports, the baseball state championship is a good one. And then, of course, girls soccer at the Eline Soccer Complex in Milwaukee is later this week. And then that's it for high school sports. Believe it or not, we're done. Yeah. High school sports for this school year is over. And then it's just, a little more than 2 months away from high school football on August 21st. So we are at the end of the school year for high school sports, and it wraps up with a couple of great tournaments to enjoy with baseball and girls soccer.
I feel like we get into that time where we're Jimmy and we're Chad Holmes. They just kind of hibernate. They go into a little hovel and they curl up for a while, and then it's football time again. Let's see. But we still have winter sports going on. The Stanley Cup Finals continue tomorrow in Florida, where the Panthers could clinch the Stanley Cup. But if Edmonton can win in Florida, they will force a Game 7 on Friday night in Edmonton. And I might stay up here in Canada just for that. That could happen. The NBA Finals, they have Game 5 tonight in Oklahoma City. That series is tied 2-2. Any thoughts on the basketball or the hockey there, Jimmy?
Hey, I want to say this. I am insanely jealous that you were in Canada during the Stanley Cup Finals. Just to put that out there. That is way cool. What's great about both of these series, they might not have they might not be the big name teams that are in the finals in either sport, right? The NHL or the NBA. But I tell you what, these are two very entertaining finals. The NBA finals being now a best of 3 is absolutely fascinating. There's a lot of young players, a lot of young talent for both Oklahoma City and Indiana, which is awesome. The NBA finals being a best of 3 at this point. I know that they're small market teams. The NBA people are probably tearing their hair out, but that's a fantastic finish to the NBA season. The NHL, like you said, Game 7 is a possibility if we get to that this week. There's nothing better than Game 7 in playoff hockey.
Nothing. Honestly, nothing in sports. And then finally back to the basketball and Orlando making some kind of a big trade. What does that do to the speculation on Giannis in Milwaukee?
I tell you what, if Desmond Bane is worth 4 unprotected first-round picks, what is Giannis worth? Does any team have that kind of that kind of move to make? I mean, do the Bucks take anything less now than 4 first-round draft picks for someone like Giannis if they were to deal him? I don't think he gets traded, but that trade is fascinating just on a number of levels, and that the trade value for any star in the NBA has gone up with that trade.
All right, Jimmy Kuska, thank you so much as always. Have a great Monday.
Thank you.
All right. Hey, coming up in our 8 o'clock hour, we are going to have author Laura Bird. But first, we're going to talk to John and Gordy. We're going to get an updated forecast from meteorologist Brittany Merlot. And remember, you can follow my team at Up North News all day long. If we're not stranded in Canada, you can get our newsletters, social media, our website, upnorthnewswi.com. And of course, here mornings on the Civic Media Radio Network. right, we are clear. Thank you, Jimmy.
Thank you. Safe travels home, sir.
That was awesome. All right, so see you later.
Yep.
Bye.
Have a good one, Jimmy. All right, what do I need to do, Pat?
Let's see. Well, let's see. First, I bring this up because I should have mentioned this before we went to the local break. But for folks watching this on the live feed, this feed of our morning show is about to come to an end. And what you do is, if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, you're going to see another feed pop up in just a bit here. Go to that one for our 8 o'clock hour because they're going to be running that one from the Madison studio. Because I'm going to have to go to the airport about halfway through the hour here. So John and Gordy coming up on a different stream. We're going to sign this one off, and hopefully Parker will send me the code that I use for this one, or for the Civic Media one, and we'll see you online in just a little bit. That's the way it's supposed to work, Parker. How are you feeling about that?
Not fantastic, but you know.
Okay, well, put the chat for the new StreamYard in put the code in the chat, and I'll see you on the other side.